There's only like 8 or 9 chapters, aka videos, left to go. Hi guys, this is Connie. This is back for more Connie Reads the Dogs of Winter. Once again, please leave it in the comments if there's too much background noise. I'm going to do my best to be loud and clear while I read chapter 45, titled Drawing Tales. I no longer waited in the limbs of the birch tree for the woman in the hat. I sat at the base of the tree and listened. I knew now the sound of her footfall and the rustle of her skirt even before she crossed the boulevard. Rip and I would meet her halfway to the tree and carry her big bag of everything, which always included food. Now she brought me my own pad of clean white paper and a box of crayons. After I tired of drawing pictures of the Firebird and Baba Yaga, I drew a picture of the biggest pig in all of Russia. I handed her the drawing of the pig with its glowing red eyes and cruel tusks. I'd drawn how the hair bristled on the back like the spiked hair of the crow boys in the city. She pressed her hand to her chest. "My goodness," she said, "that's a fine boar." "We killed it," I said, puffing out my chest with pride. "Who killed it?" she asked. "We did," I said, "the dogs and I." She frowned. "I don't think a little boy and a couple of dogs could kill a creature like that." I leapt to my feet. "But we did. These are not all the dogs, and besides, I am not a little boy." She smiled. "No, indeed not." I could tell she did not believe me. I snatched the pad of white paper back and drew furiously. I drew the dogs leaping on the back of the boar and grabbing its ear. I drew the boar tossing Smoke aside with one toss of his tusk. I drew myself, arm raised high overhead, smashing the club on the skull of the boar. I drew the boar laying on its side, blood trickling from its mouth. I thrust the pad in the woman's face. "See here and here," I said, pointing to each picture. "This is how we killed it." She peered closely at each picture, touched them one by one with her finger. "These are remarkable," she said. "You've moved from drawing fairy tales to drawing picture tales." She pointed to the club in the drawing. "That's quite the weapon." I nodded. "It came from the leg of a huge deer." I held my hand level with my waist. "It was this big." "My," she said. "And did you and the dogs kill it too?" she asked with a little smile. I shook my head. "The others killed it." She laughed and shook her head. "You do have quite the imagination. Can you draw me a picture of this giant deer?" I hesitated. I only knew it from its bones. And then I remembered the beautiful animal we had seen in the forest once, with its long legs and great spread of antlers. I bent over my pad and drew. I held the picture out when I was finished. "Ah," she said with surprise. "I'd heard there were elk here. That's why they call this park Elk Island." She shook her head. "But I can't imagine what could kill a creature that big." "The others could," I said. She shook her head again. "You and your picture tales." She looked up at the sky and sighed. "The days are getting short again." She pulled a sweater from her bottomless bag and draped it around her shoulders. "Soon it will be too cold to come." My mouth went dry. I did not want to think about the cold and the snow and not seeing the woman in the hat or hearing the beautiful music every night in the Ferris wheel park. "It's not too cold yet," I said. But all too soon, it did turn cold. The leaves fell from the trees. The limbs of the birch tree spread like black fingers. "Mowgli," the woman said, "where do you go in the winter? Do you have a warm place to go?" I concentrated on drawing Smoke's eyes. I could not seem to get the color just right. For only the second time, the woman touched my shoulder. I did not pull away. "Mowgli, child, you cannot live here in this cold." Not looking at her, I said, "We will stay here until the snow comes. We keep each other warm," I explained. She threw her hands up. "Who is we?" I threw my hands up too. "I've told you. The dogs." I showed her the drawing. This is smoke." She looked at the drawing for a long time. Then in a sad voice, she asked, "And where do you and the dogs go when the snow comes?" I did not mean to make her sad. "The city," I said. "We ride the trains all over the city. It's warm on the trains and mostly safe." She frowned. She pointed at Smoke's eyes on the white page. "Child, is this another one of your fairy tales?" I frowned. "I have never told you a tale." The next day, I hurried along the path to the birch tree. Food was getting harder to find in the park, and I was hungry. Every day was colder. Every day there were fewer people. Lucky stopped just before the thicket on the other side of the birch tree. He raised his head, his nose searching the air. The fur rose on the back of his neck. I listened. Yes, that was the sound of the old woman's skirt and her footfall on the dead leaves. But another walked with her. This one's steps were heavy and impatient. I smelled a cigarette. I wriggled under the thicket and listened. "Here, this is where we always meet," the woman in the hat said. I could see only her skirt and her feet. A pair of gray trousers and shiny boots stood next to her skirt and legs. "Well, I don't certainly see anyone, Mother," a deep voice said. "He always comes." The old woman's voice was fretful. "You'll see." Her son sighed and flicked his cigarette onto the ground, right in front of my nose. "It's too cold for a child to be playing in the woods, Mother. He's probably gone back to where he lives." "I'm telling you, he lives here. He and those smelly dogs," the old woman snapped. "He doesn't play here like some schoolboy, and of course it's too cold. That's why I'm so worried about him." I smiled. The man in the trousers and boots paced back and forth. He lit another cigarette. "Oh dear," the woman said, "where could he be?" I closed my eyes and imagined wiggling out from the bushes and standing up straight and tall. I would smile and she would hug me to her in relief. "We've waited long enough, Mother. It's too cold for you to be out here and I have to get back to work." She would show me to her son, her eyes filled with pride. She would say, "This is Mowgli. He's a very good boy, very good." I opened my eyes, my heart light. I pushed myself out from under the bushes and stood. The clearing beneath the birch tree was empty. And that's the end of chapter 45. Be careful with that and enjoy, please and thank you, and I will see you for the next installment. I'm going to go ahead and read ahead and find out what happens. Bye.